Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Let's talk about Singapore. And holy shit, that was so boring. Honestly, that's like my key takeaway from this race. Boring as shit. Um, so let's just get straight into it. We'll go to the race rating. For me, 5 out of 10. Um, and the reason is easily because the strategy didn't play a role like it sometimes usually does when a track is impossible to overtake on. The overtaking, it was like as soon as cars got into a range where they were able to overtake, they would just overheat the tires and have to, simmer down back behind them, right? And then any undercut that was attempted was just so easily blocked off by the other drivers. And that just made for just a terribly boring race. And with the few overtakes we did have, the offset was just so big that those overtakes weren't ever for position or anything really meaningful. So it did climax a little bit towards the end with the Lando and Max battle, but it was nothing to write home about because I think in the back of everyone's mind, Lando was never going to overtake Max. So he didn't create anything exciting by sitting 7/10 behind him for 20 laps, essentially. So definitely a 5 out of 10 for me. They didn't really show a lot of different drivers in the midfield or any interesting things that happened in the midfield anyway. So it was all just eyes up front to essentially nothing happening. So an easy 5 out of 10. Easy 5 out of 10. But I want to really give props to George Russell for an awesome showing. He really... I did say I thought Mercedes would do well, but I could never expect them to put it on pole and win the race comfortably. Now, what I would say about that win is from George Russell, as top-notch as it was, he was sort of aided by the fact that Verstappen started on the soft tyre, because what happened was we were like, oh, Verstappen starting on the soft, he's going to try and run up and overtake George Russell early and then just hold him off from there. But George gets a banging start, and then Max can't overtake, and he's stranded on the soft tyre, which degrades a lot faster than that medium, and then it becomes Max is holding up Lando, and George Russell's just easily able to eke out a 10-second lead before the first stop, which he used to just comfortably stay out and go a bit longer. And, he essentially was able to create an offset for himself in the second stint whilst maintaining like a good few second lead over Verstappen. So Verstappen was never going to be able to catch him, which was very easy for Russell. So top-notch job from him. He done well qualifying on pole, and he just outshined everyone else. So good on him. Let's quickly go over the qualifying results. So Ferrari looked like they were going to have some pace, but then they just cooked it essentially in qualifying. They didn't show the potential we saw in Leclerc's last lap. He made an error. Piastri did well. Antonelli did well, I thought really well for qualifying fourth. Obviously, with Russell being on pole, the Mercedes definitely did have some pace. Verstappen as well. I honestly thought he would have got pole, although we saw in qualifying that he was held up. Well, he blamed Lando for cruising 2 to 3 seconds in front, and then in the post-qualifying interviews, he was asked who it was, and he's like, not Oscar. So we know it was Lando that was just cruising around in front, but I don't think that's really an issue from Lando. He did nothing wrong there. He's allowed to be on the track. He's allowed to be giving space to Max, which is what he did. And Max has obviously suffered a tenth or two from the turbulent air, but that's racing for you. So Hadjar had a great qualifying as well, but VCARB, as I'll talk about, had an awful weekend. They just couldn't get anything right. The car had issues. Hadjar was suffering from an engine issue, costing him time every lap. And we saw how Alonso overtook him in the race, was just terribly slow on the straights. It just had no go, just no guts, really. And Alonso made light work of him. But Hadjar had a good qualifying. It was just unfortunate. And then Lawson obviously had a couple of crashes, which was very disappointing to see because he is fighting for that spot, that V-carb seat for next year. So unfortunate for them. Now, the race, as we'll keep talking about, but let's go into the standings now. Lando and Max closing in just a little bit on Oscar, but nothing too serious. But as we saw the McLarens, which we'll discuss a bit later, he did lose out in this race, and he did lose some ground. So another big mover. Russell as well, collecting a haul of points for Mercedes, obviously, and Alonso as well for Aston, climbing up in the standings, and he is a good chance to overtake Hulkenberg next race if he, even potentially Hadjar, if he really does has a good performance, maybe a P7, he could overtake Hadjar, which is crazy. Obviously, the constructors, McLaren, congrats to them for wrapping that one up. Awesome job. They've been the dominant car for most of the season, although at the moment they're not seeming like that. So, but good thing they wrapped it up now. At least that's constructors done. They don't have to worry about that. They can focus on making their fight fair between their drivers, which they're doing a shit job at. But it's an impossible situation anyway. So what are you supposed to do? Now, let's talk about my predictions. So I predicted Verstappen a pole, Piastri to win. Now, that was honestly silly of me to think that Piastri could climb up, not from a pole position. A pole position here it's almost as good as like a Monaco pole. It was that bad, the overtaking, and the turbulent air, the hot turbulent air with no tyre offset was just horrific to overtake. So I don't know why I thought Piastri could come up and win, but done by me. Anyway, George Russell obviously got that win. Alonso with a class drive. I'm going to give myself that. I think you can almost definitely give it to George Russell because that probably wasn't expected at the start of the weekend. So Alonso for class drive, I'll give myself that. And George Russell would be another contender for that. And then you would have a run wide Colapinto. I mean, to be fair, that's just easy pickings, bro. Like Colapinto, I feel like he was just slow, and the Alpine was just slow. But I don't think I can give myself that. I think it's got to be more probably a Hadjar or a Lawson because of all the crashes and all that for the weekend. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Colapinto technically is right if you're looking at stats, but the car is just so bad, and I don't think his confidence is very high. I don't think you can expect much from him on any given weekend. So what can you say about that? So I don't think I can give myself that. So that's the truth about my predictions. All right. And then let's move on to the race. Let's get into the nitty gritty. McLaren, what the fuck? I mean, rules of engagement are changing every single week now, and I feel like you just got to throw everything out the window now. Forget what's happened all in the lead up to this. Because if the rules are no contact and Lando breached that, nothing was done. So now to Oscar, that means, okay, now we're rivals. We're not teammates now. We've won the constructors. We're going to race as rivals, because that Lando's move was not a move you would usually make on a teammate, I'd say. So now it's like, we're rivals now. We're 100% rivals. And McLaren to say that he was avoiding contact with Verstappen, which led him to hit Piastri, is absolute bullshit, because the only reason Norris was there and he slammed the brakes so late is, as he is a race driver, wants to get around Piastri, his teammate. So he knew that to get around Piastri, he had to be super late on the brakes, and that's what he did. And he went in so deep that he ran up the arse of Verstappen and pushed his teammate out into the wall. And that is a rival mood. Yes, it's a racing incident. So this is the thing. From my point of view, that's a racing incident. There is no penalty for that. You can't really penalise that. I don't think you can switch that back. But what it is now, rules of engagement, gone. You're acting as rivals now. You're not teammates, because now how can you expect Piastri to act in the team's interest when he's just copped the whack from his teammate and essentially it's like a bump and run and he's gone through and lost the position and lost championship points. So how can you expect Piastri now to acknowledge rules of engagement when that's happened to him after it's been stated that McLarens aren't allowed to touch on the track? So unfortunate for Piastri. Yes, terribly unfortunate, but it's a racing incident. There's nothing you can do, and he should feel slighted because the rules of engagement were different. And now, and this is what happens when McLaren's trying to micromanage it. And now you've got the situation where Piastri's being dogged. In this situation, it's a racing incident, play on. Now you got to throw out the rule book and say, okay, we're racing as rivals, because how can you expect Piastri to acknowledge those rules of engagement? So unfortunate stuff for Piastri, but he's still in the hunt. He's still in the lead. He can still make it work. So he's got to go for broke and win the championship. He can't just sit and rely on the team to protect him. He's got to go for it. Norris has got to go for it. Verstappen's got to go for it at the end of the day, especially Verstappen. Although Circuit of the Americas next, we will think that McLaren should be dominant there. So Russell, as we spoke about before, got benefited from Max being on the softs, but he still drove an excellent race. Max, he did also drive a good race. It was a bold move going on the softs, but you wouldn't expect anything less from a person trying to just go for the win. Max has just got to go for it now. He can't worry about consequences as much because he's got nothing to lose, essentially. So that was a good strategy, but he did suffer some problems with the downshifting and the braking. We saw him lock up down the back straight towards the end of the race, which could have cost him a position, honestly. He's lucky he got away with that one and was able to turn out of it and not nick the wall. So awesome good drive from Verstappen, as per usual. We wouldn't expect anything less. As I said, VCARB, terrible. VCARB were terrible. Terrible weekend. Mercedes, great points haul. Ollie Behrman also was one of the standout of the midfield. I thought he drove a great race. Alonso as well, because he was a bit vulnerable. Alonso went long with that group of midfielders that went long in the race, right? And this was one of the things, like, they're just hoping for a safety car. They're running extremely long, creating a big offset against themselves, but they've got track position. And so what would happen there is these midfielders go long and say to like lap 35, 40, there's a safety car that comes out. They've still got 15 to 12 seconds on their rivals. They can get a 10-second pit stop under safety car and retain that track position and therefore move up the order. And that's what they're hoping for. But otherwise, it doesn't come. Usually it doesn't come. Their race is ruined. So that's sort of what happened. But Alonso did a great job to recover. So good stuff there. But not much else to cover. I mean, I just know that McLaren and Piastri is just going to be the talking point for this whole week. And, well, I mean, yeah, you can't really talk about much else, and there's not much other storylines. So hopefully Circuit of the Americas provides some more even racing. And, yeah, I get the feeling McLaren will be dominant. But, yeah, boring from Singapore. But it's a spectacle. I mean, it's a good spectacle. The track's good. It's just difficult with these cars. And, yeah, it was boring. And being someone in a time zone where the races are late and you're trying to stay up late and you're tired and shit to watch it, you're just like, fuck this. So definitely makes it harder to watch when you're tired. And it's like 12 o'clock at night. But that's all right. We always love watching the F1. So happy days. And that's all we've got to talk about because that's all there was. So I hope you enjoyed the Grand Prix. we'll see you in a few weeks for Circuit of the Americas, and we look forward to it. Take care.